Namaskar. A very good evening, everyone. On behalf of Vivekananda Study Circle JNU, we welcome you all to this webinar on a wonderful topic, mind and its control. Now, I request Dr. Prachi Singh to start today's session with a recital of Vedic chanting from Taittiriya Upanishad, a part of Yajurveda. So, Prachi, please start.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति Shanti. Om. May we all be protected. May we all be nourished. May we work together with great energy. May our intellect be sharpened. Let there be no animosity amongst us. Om. Peace in me, peace in nature, peace in divine forces.
Thank you, Prachi. I now request Dr. Arpita Mitra to kindly introduce the speaker and the topic of today's discussion. So, Arpita Di, over to you.
Namaste, everyone. Am I audible, Amrita?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. The human mind is such an enigma. We do not actually know 3/4 of our own minds. What is in there? What sanskaras are running deep in our minds? While the mind is only an instrument, at times it becomes our master and runs amok. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the human mind is like a sack of mustard seeds. If it gets dispersed once in the ways of the world, it is very difficult to recollect it and make it steady. Truly, the concentrated mind or the Samahita Mana is a powerhouse by means of which anything can be achieved in this world, from mundane work to God realization. Without wasting more time, I'll introduce our speaker today. Revered Swami Pitambaranandaji is a senior monk of the Ramakrishna order. He joined the mutt at Nagpur at the age of 22. Throughout his life as a sannyasin, he has shouldered various important responsibilities, like he was the warden of Vivekananda Vidyarthi Bhavan, a student's home for college students in Nagpur. He was the warden and assistant secretary at Ramakrishna Mission Students' Home, Chennai. He was the head of the Ramakrishna Mission Ashram, Chandigarh from 1992 to 2002. He has also spent time in isolation, engaged in intense spiritual practices at the Ramakrishna Mutt Kutir, Rishikesh. From 2012 onwards, on earnest invitations from the Ramakrishna Mission Centers and associated institutions, he has been moving from place to place and giving discourses on Vedanta, Ramakrishna, Sharada Devi, Vivekananda, matters of paramount importance in human life to the monastics of the order, associated sadhakas, devotees, students, teachers, and the general public. So far, he has taken classes in Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chandigarh, Goa, Haryana, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Punjab, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal, and is presently based at Khetri, Rajasthan. These days, he takes 3 online classes from Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. Bhagavad Gita class in Bengali, 3 p.m. Ishopanishad class in Hindi. Both these classes can be accessed live from the YouTube channel of Ramakrishna Mission Khetri, and 5:30 p.m. Naradiya Bhakti Sutra classes from RKM Veri. Now I hand over the mic to Revered Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
So shall I start now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Same chant I repeat. Om Paratatve Sada Lino Ramakrishna Samajjaya Yo Dharma Sthapanarato Viresham Tam Namamyaham. I bow down to that Viresha, Swami Vivekananda's original name, who was always immersed in his own bliss. But because of Sri Ramakrishna's order, he established religion throughout his life. Friends, a very important topic has been given to me by Arpita, mind and its control. Let me put before you a summary. The four topics under which I would discuss this subject. What is mind? Second, what is control? Third, need of control. Fourth, ways of control. What is mind? What is control? Why there is need of control? And what are the ways to control the mind? Now, mind, because we are all influenced by the Western thought today, I would start by quoting from New Webster's Dictionary. Many of us are not aware of what is mind. So I'm quoting from New Webster's Dictionary. Mind is the seat of consciousness, thinking, feeling, and will. Mind is the seat of consciousness, thinking, feeling, and will. I would tell you, this is a very, very partial description of the mind. Very, very partial. So, how Indians, especially the Indian sages, the Indian scriptures, think of the mind, let me tell you. There are two places. One is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the other is in Aitareya Upanishad. I am quoting from the Aitareya Upanishad. Those who are interested in the reference, Aitareya 3:1-2. Sangyanam, Agyanam, Vigyanam, Pragyanam, Medha, Drishti, Dhriti, Mati, Manisha, Jyoti, Smriti, Sankalpaha, Kratuhu, Asuhu, Kamo, Vasha iti. This is mind. It is sentience, rulership, secular knowledge, presence of mind, retentiveness, sense perception, fortitude, thinking, genius, mental suffering, memory, resolution, ascertainment, resolution, life activities, anchoring, passion. This is all mind. So instead of the four proposed by the Western thought, I have so many things. But this is only to show how deep the Indian mind used to go. But we'll think of the mind at present by for our practical purposes according to the Webster Dictionary. But there are to explain certain things. Mind is the seat of consciousness, thinking, feeling, will, it says. But there is a difference. Mind being seat of consciousness has a different meaning. And mind being seat of thinking, feeling, will has a different connotation. Mind is the seat of consciousness means consciousness does not belong to the mind. Let me give the example of the old type of electric bulb. When there is darkness in the room, we switch on and we get light. Without even looking at the bulb, we say bulb has given light. Now look at the bulb. Is bulb giving the light? Or within the bulb there is a filament which is heated. That alone is giving light. Bulb is like a catchment area. It catches the light from that filament and gives to the room. This is the position of our mind. Mind has no light of its own. But the light belongs to what we call Atman or the self of man. But the self of man has light and mind catches that light and then gives it to our sense organs, our body and outside world. So that is the meaning of mind being the seat of consciousness. Consciousness sits on the mind. Consciousness is reflected on the mind. So mind is the seat of consciousness means mind is the catching point where the consciousness works. Now mind is the seat of thinking, feeling, will means they are the activities of the mind. Mind functions in these three ways. Many more ways just now I read from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Prominent along with these three is imagination. Imagination is a tremendous power in the mind, but it is neither thinking nor feeling nor will. Mind has also the capacity to control itself. That is not mentioned here. Anyway, now to some extent I have defined mind because I have to put before you in 40 minutes what I think about this. So I hope I have made it clear. Mind is the seat of consciousness. That means it receives consciousness from the Atman and then distributes it to our body and outside world. And the functions of the mind we can identify as thinking, feeling, will, major functions. As I said, there are many more, and especially I mention again imagination as a great function. Let me mention here, no scientific discovery is made by thinking, feeling, or will. Every scientific discovery is made by imagination. It is tested by thinking, thinking, and then presented to us. We feel it is given by thinking. No. Thinking, where the thinking ends, there we stretch our mind. That is called imagination. Where feeling, thinking, and will do not go, there we stretch the mind. That is called faculty of imagination. And all discoveries of science come from that place. But without testing by the thinking capacity, we do not present to the people. Now, I go to the second topic. What is control? Let me tell you, control is not suppression. Control is not repression. Control does not mean stopping. Because there is a new American thought, we should not control, we need not control. That, of course, need of control I will take next. But generally, people think of control as forcing our mind to stop. From outside, when we force, it is called suppression. From inside, when we force, it is called repression. But control does not mean stopping the mind. We do not want to stop the mind at this stage. We want the mind to be active. We want the mind to be constructive. So what is the meaning of the control of the mind? Regulating, properly directing. Regulating the mind and properly directing the mind is called control. Because a lot of energy is wasted otherwise. Many things in our mind are such that they oppose each other and we lose energy. I will give a small example here. I was seeing boys practicing for the running race. Now, one boy had received a lot of coaching. But while practicing, I thought he is running very slow. And the other boy, who had not received any coaching, I thought he is running so much. But then on the day of competition, the boy had received coaching only one. What was the difference? The boy who has not received coaching was moving every part of his body, every limb of his body. His hands themselves were opposing the motion of the legs. And the boy who had received coaching, what he was doing? When the left foot was coming up, he was sending his right hand up. When the right foot was coming up, he was sending his left hand up. Other than that, there is no movement in the body at all. So all the movement was so nicely regulated and directed that he easily won the race. This is what happens to us. If we do not control, if you do not regulate, if you do not put it in the proper direction, mind wastes its energy. And frustration comes in the mind. We see it every day in our life. Two forces are working. I want to earn money at any cost. but people should not call me bad. So these two forces oppose each other. So many things in the mind struggle to express and they quarrel with each other. Therefore, it is necessary to understand what is control. Now, why control is necessary? I have included that perhaps, but control is necessary to achieve the goal of life. Control is necessary to achieve anything positive in life. I will give an example here. You have heard just now that I was in Chandigarh or Punjab for 10 years. In Punjab, there is a river called Satluj. All of you might have heard it. Normally, it's a tributary of Vyasa. But it was so turbulent, even now, that it was called the river of destruction. But then we made channels. And now, Satluj River in Punjab is irrigating fields in Rajasthan. And we get so many crops in Rajasthan. So the effect of regulating and directing is the positive energy we get. Not only that, we are getting hydroelectric energy from Satluj. So energy wasted and leading to frustration of life, and energy regulated and directed leading to success of life. That is why this control is absolutely necessary to learn. And this must be learned right from childhood. Now I will quote another example. How we understand a man is growing. A child has so much restlessness, we must see. He is moving his hands, he is moving his feet, his eyes are moving. It is impossible. If you give something to the child, he is unable to catch it. Have you seen? Because his eyes are moving. He is not able. Sometimes what happens, we move the object before the child and he catches. That means when our moving motion tallies with eyes motion, then it becomes constant for him. Now he has no control over anything. Then as he grows, he learns control. When it comes to the field of education, he learns control still more. If he is doing something in the world, then he has learned the secret of control. Otherwise, he cannot achieve anything in life. Now, what are the ways of control? Actually, let us see, mind is a composite whole. Mind is a composite whole consisting, again I repeat, of thinking, feeling, will, also of imagination. So many faculties we have seen in the mind from Aitareya Upanishad. So mind is a composite whole. And generally, why our attempt at control fails is that we use only one power, the power of will. It is useless to try to control the mind only by the power of will. We must use thinking, feeling, will, imagination, everything we must use to control the mind. Because mind is a composite something. Now, how to use this? I request you, I appeal to you to read Swami Vivekananda's 4 yogas. They are nothing but teaching for how to control the mind. Let us take one by one. He says each soul is potentially divine. And the goal is to manifest this divine within by controlling nature, external and internal. Now, external nature does not mean we go to control the mountains and rivers. It is necessary we can control them also, but external means our physical habits we have to control. Internal means our mind we have to control. And by controlling, this divine nature is expressed, manifested in life. And then he says, do it. Do it. By talking will not do, you have to do it. Either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. And he has given us ample choice according to our tendencies by one or more or all of these and be free. Free again. So two goals he has set up before us, to express the divinity and to be free. Free from what? You young people want freedom. They do not understand what is freedom. What they want is freedom of the senses. They will not be free. Their eyes will be free. Their nose will be free. And they will be bound by these activities of the senses. What we want is the freedom from the senses. So, freedom is the goal. Now, why Swamiji has proposed these 4 methods? Swamiji has said that there are several methods and I have generalized them into 4. Why and how? Let us take up the first one. Though Swamiji's order is, yes, by work he says first. Now we have the faculty of will. And how the faculty of will works? Normally, ordinarily, selfish activity, egoistic activity, and that is the best way to lose the control of the mind. Now you know something, in social language, when there is a tension developing in some area, what we hear, the collector went there, minister went there, or police officer went there, and it diffused that tension. That is what we use. So if a tension develops on one point, it is tension. But when it is diffused over an area, it is diffused. Now, this very karma, this very activity, we must practice to be unselfish in our work. This is greatly related to control, understand? Only using will to control the mind will not do at all. And that is why most of us fail. I'll give an example here. One young man told Swami Vivekananda, I'm staying in the room, you know, on the top floor there is a room. In Bengali they call Chiler Chat. Just above the staircase there is a room. He says, I have chosen that room. I stopped all the doors and windows of that room I shut, and yet I am not able to control the mind. Swamiji said, open all the doors and windows. See around you who are the people in misery. Go and help them and come and meditate. I guarantee you can control the mind. So, we must start from, I think, all spirituality in the world, all attempts at control of the mind in the world must start from unselfishness. And not only unselfishness, ego-less work. I am working, this ego spoils the control of the mind. You should not obstruct me. I am working. So, we must shun ego and selfishness while work. This is the first step of controlling the mind. Unless we shun, unless we stop these nonsensical faculties, the selfishness and the ego, we cannot control the mind. The more unselfish we are, the more we are able to control the mind. If you want a testimony on this, I will tell you, all the sannyasis and brahmacharis of Ramakrishna Mission are a standing testimony to this fact. If they work throughout the day for the sake of the people, for unselfishness, in the evening when they sit for meditation, they are able to control the mind. So the first point, you may appear strange, but that is truth. Mind is a composite whole. Mind has the faculty of work, will. And therefore, we must train our will first of all. Control means training, regulation, directing. So we must train our mind. Here I propose, I'll give my own example. When I was in school, in our school, there was everywhere there these days, Boy Scout movement. And our school Boy Scout was supposed to be the best in the city. Every time we used to go to Boy Scout meet, the first rule of Boy Scout is every day you must do something to help others. And every time we went to the Boy Scout meeting, our teacher would ask, "What did you do today?" He said, "What can we do?" When you are coming to the school, if you find an old man, why not help him to cross the road? If a blind man, why not help him to cross the road? If you find some glass piece or thorns on the road, why not keep them away? That is how we were trained. And when I came to the Ramakrishna Mission, I saw infinitely unselfish work and I could easily control the mind. This is the first point only, not the whole thing. But I think the start should be from here. Now, the next point is what Swamiji calls worship. Bhakti actually means devotion. Now, all will say, what is devotion and why devotion helps control the mind? Have you not seen people who are deeply devoted to what? To two things, I will say. God is not a particular object. Forget this God and that God. God is one without a second reality. God lives in everybody's heart. So we should love God and we should love every being in the world. Here again the division takes place. And you have seen people, some people have the notion spirituality is opposite to religion. I deny it. Religion, Swamiji just now, I quoted Swamiji's 2, 3 formulas. The last formula is this is the whole of religion, Swamiji says. So the whole of religion consists. Now this is according to the temperament of man. Swamiji has said by one or more or all of these. Those who have devotional temperament, devotional works in two different ways. We have love for God. That is such a strong force for controlling our mind. Or otherwise, if we love, God lives in the hearts of all. If we love the whole humanity, not particular persons, not Hindus against Muslims, not Christians against this, not Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, no. Not Indian, Pakistani, American, no. If we universally love every being in the world, we shall be able to control the mind. Bhagavan Buddha has taught, and Ramakrishna Mission people also teach the same thing. When we sit for some meditation, we must send a wave of love to the east, to the west, to the south, to the north, to above and below, then we are able to control the mind. So, second point in control of the mind is love for God, who is the reality of the world, love for the entire humanity. This is the second point. And this Swamiji has said by worship. Worship means the spirit of devotion. And it corresponds to the feeling psyche of man. Mind is the seat of thinking, feeling, will. Will, feel, we are using, instead of will pulling us out, we are using will to control the mind by unselfish work. Feeling, we are attached to a particular person. We get angry if somebody obstructs that attachment, and we are wasting our feeling capacity. We are making the feeling capacity throw us out of control. But if the feeling capacity is trained by what Swamiji calls worship, what we call devotion, if we can love the one reality of the world in any form you like, or without form if you like, any form you like of God, without form if you like of God, and simultaneously, you see, when Swami Vivekananda returned from the West, he had a small lecture in the Rameshwaram temple, the seat of orthodoxy in those days. And Swamiji told, if you love Shiva in this image, your devotion is preliminary. But if you can love Shiva in every being of the world, then your devotion is developed. Raja of Ramnad, who was the host, he was so much impressed. He got Swamiji's lecture engraved. If you enter the Rameshwaram temple, just behind the door on the wall, it is engraved. After many, many years came these parties who normally do not believe in God. And they thought that this engravement should not go away. They filled it with gold. just lecture of 5 minutes even. So, our love should never be narrow. Our love should never be attachment to a man, a hatred from a man. This will help. This will strongly help the control of the mind. Love God in any form, I said. Love God without form, if you like. Love the entire humanity as the seat of God. So this is the second point. Now the third point proposed by Swamiji is by psychic control. Now this will faculty works in two ways. I shall do such and such thing is will. I shall not do such and such thing also is will. And if you believe that Mahatma Gandhi got freedom for us by what? Passive resistance, active resistance. The faculty of I shall not obey the wrong rules made by the Britishers. If this, that was the weapon Mahatma Gandhi used, but it can be misused also. It is being misused every day in our country and elsewhere. Understand? I'll give a small example. Chakka Bandha, Delhi Bandha, Bharat Bandha, this is the destructive use of that force. But if we can stop the fact energies of our body, mind going in the lower direction and give them an upper direction, that is the way of psychic control. And we had classes on Patanjali Sutras, who is a master of psychic control. So, Swamiji has given this as a choice. It corresponds to the faculty of will again. Positive will, work. Negative will, psychic control. Now comes the last point. Arpita, I am not exceeding my time now. Now
No,
comes
Maharaj.
the last. Okay. Now comes the last point. Swamiji says by philosophy. What is philosophy? Do we fundamentally think what we are? Do we fundamentally think how the world came into existence? I will tell some story again. In the land of Greece, there was what you call the laissez-faire, that means government caring for everything. So the people had a lot of freedom, so-called, and they were roaming and chit-chatting with each other. There arose a man called Socrates. He used to go and ask people, do you know why you are born? Do you know what are you going to in the world? Do you know where will you go? Do you know world was created? And people started getting disturbed because they were never. But by this method, he got best of the disciples, Plato and others. Now, fundamental knowledge is philosophy. You will see how it controls the mind. If you know that the world is temporary, if you know all our worldly interests are very shallow and temporary, if you know there is one reality in the whole world, if we know that there is one reality which governs us inside and outside, we can very easily control the mind. And that is what the philosophers do. That is what our sages did. So, and now we can use all of them together also. We can use our fundamental thinking, devotion to God, psychic control, unselfishness, all of them we can act together. And then only we will be able to control the mind. So mind control is very easy in one way, very difficult in another way, because we are using only one faculty called will to control the mind. Otherwise, what are the things we use? Sometimes we take cold water bath. Sometimes we go to people to control our mind, and we are losing our energy in that way. A horse is running, and if you hit it hard, it stops. That is not control. I will, in this respect, I will give another example. The horses which the military which the military purchases or the circus it is purchased, that horse has to be not a horse. Ordinary horse. Sri Ramakrishna has given an example about the bulls or bullocks which the farmers purchase. He says if they put their hand on the tail of the bullock, it may lie down. They reject that bull. If they put their hand on the tail, he jumps. That is the bull they select. Similarly, a naughty horse is selected. Now, he has to be trained. And then there is a man specially reserved for this purpose. And the process is called breaking the horse. That means we decorate the horse, we put on this and put on that. The horse does not react. We have put one foot in the one side ladder, he does not react. In trying to put the second foot, we touch the back of the horse and the horse revolts. Horse jumps, runs here and there. His only attempt to make the rider fall, not allow him to be owner, not allow him to be the master. And the work of the owner at that time is not to allow it, not to leave his bag. If you do not want to do as I tell you, I will not do as you tell me. He falls, he injures himself, but he never leaves the back of the horse. Then the horse becomes straight. He understands that he is the Malik, not I. And then the training starts. And just by small symbols, they train the horse, both for the circus and for the, you have seen the aquatic play and all that. That is how the horses are trained. We have to use this very thing with our mind. Some boys tell me, we want to study, but we are not able to study. What happens? Mind goes to hotel, mind goes to cinema, mind goes. I said, you tell your mind, if you are not allowing me to study, I will not allow you to go to these places. Let there be a fight like this. And then you will find the mind will gradually come under control. One supreme method I am telling now. Supreme method. I will give you an example again. Suppose there is a servant with you and he makes mistake. You scold him. He says, sir, sorry, tomorrow I will not mistake, and same mistake is made again and again. Now you tell the servant, quit, I don't want you. And then the servant becomes your real servant. He follows everything which you tell him. We are not mind. I am telling the supreme philosophy now. We are not mind. We are consciousness by our nature. You know, our sages call us Satchid Ananda, where existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute, unlimited, infinite. Mind we are using to work in the world. But suppose we, at some point we say, oh mind, I do not want you. Then the mind will follow us very, very meekly. I think I have given you some hints. What I can do more in 40 minutes, this whole life's problem. And yet, I have tried my best to give you something. Please, if you have any questions to ask, you are welcome. Arpita?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Maharaj, thank you so much, Maharaj, for this enlightening talk. I'm sure everybody has benefited a lot. There are already a few questions. I'll now open the session for question and answer. There's a question from Tushar Pandey. How to control doubts that very often leads to uncontrolled mind?
Please repeat. How to? It is
How
given
to
on the
control how to control doubts,
doubt.
How to control doubts that very often lead to uncontrolled mind.
Very good. Yes. Now doubt also is the faculty of the mind, not given in thinking, feeling, will. Now, here also in Aitareya Upanishad, doubt is mentioned. Now, doubt can be removed in two ways. Fundamental philosophy. If we know the real nature of things, doubt will not remain. In our Upanishads, it is said, if you can realize the transcendent immanent reality, then all doubts vanish. Vidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshaya kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. Paravare means reality beyond. Avare means reality of the world. Another meaning for avare is if you have received your knowledge by tradition of gurus, then the knot of the heart is cut asunder and all doubts vanish. There is another way. Those who people, many people, I believe, were initiated into spiritual life by revered Swami Ranganathanji Maharaj. At the time of initiation, he has given a small booklet, and in that he writes, doubts will be there in the beginning. And if you read proper books, Upanishads, Gita, Brahma Sutra, Shri Ramakrishna Vachanamrut, Swami Vivekananda's complete verse as I know them, 50% of your doubts will vanish. Then you are practicing sadhana towards divinity. As you practice sadhana, more doubts will vanish. And absolutely doubtless you will become only when you realize your own real divinity. Okay? That is the answer.
The next question is
Yes.
from Nilanjan Mitro. To calm the mind while watching the thoughts, what is that entity that is keeping the vigil? Is it the mind watching the mind? Or is it some other vastu doing the watching?
No, again, please, again.
To calm the mind while watching the thoughts, what is that entity?
Working the thought.
Watching the thoughts. He's asking, what is that entity which is watching our thoughts? What is that entity
And then
watching?
please spell out working, na?
WATCHING.
Watching.
Yes. What is that entity which watches our thoughts?
Okay.
Which
Okay.
keeps
Good.
the vigil?
Good.
Is it the
Good,
mind
good.
watching the mind or something else?
Okay, I will tell you. That which watches the mind is mind itself. There is a faculty in the mind which watches itself. But because we have not used that faculty, it has gone down in us. In Darwin's evolution, there is an idea called atavism. The faculty which we do not use. For example, animals move their ears. We cannot move our ears because we have not used them. So, this faculty of self-observation exists in every man. And the mind itself can observe its activity. We are actually doing it. We are not strongly doing it. When I am eating, do I not observe that I am eating? If I become too much involved in that eating, if I become indulgent in the meeting, I lose the faculty of watching the mind. If I am playing, and if I do not observe that I am playing, I cannot play properly. If I am doing anything and I do not watch it, I cannot control the mind. So your question is nice. The entity which watches the mind is mind itself. Sometimes it is called buddhi. Buddhi is nothing but a part of the mind, thinking faculty of the mind, or that which is, anyway, it is mind itself, I tell you, which watches the mind. If we train this faculty, lot of things is, that is psychic control. We are going to the field of psychic control. First, we have to observe our mind and then we can control the mind. So that is the answer to the second question. Okay?
Now the third question, Santosh Sali, he has two questions.
Yes.
One, how do we start practicing reducing egoism?
Reducing?
How do we start practicing reducing egoism?
Reducing egoism. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
He has a second question.
Yes.
Where and what can we start reading about philosophy for mind control?
Okay, good. Now, first, reducing egoism. I have given the example of the truth. The moment we know, you see, I will tell what is not reducing egoism. When I asked my teacher, Is it not this ego is a big obstruction? He said, to whose ego you want to submit your ego? That means reducing egoism does not mean becoming under somebody. Reducing egoism means to understand that it is God who is working, not I. I am mere instrument of God. And whatever work I am doing is for God. God is working through me. The more we can cultivate this thought, the more the ego will be reduced. If we think I am doing this and I am doing that, the ego grows. But every action that we do, if we understand this is the philosophy, I will take quote Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda says in his lecture in Calcutta, he is telling this. If I have uttered any word which has helped anybody in the world, it is from Sri Ramakrishna. If I have uttered any word which has harmed somebody somewhere, it was from me. This is not modesty. Swami Vivekananda was not known to be modest. This is the philosophical truth. Swamiji also has said, where I entered the calculation, it went wrong. So, this I is a dependent reality, not depending upon other I. It depends upon the supreme will which is called God. The more we understand this, the more we make this input, mental input, it is continuously. My dear fellow, you are not working, God is working. Some girl asked me recently, she has tremendous achievement in the outside world, and yet she is a humble seeker of God. She said the thoughts come of the success which I attained in the world, how that is to be controlled. I said, if you can cultivate this thought, the person responsible for my success is God, not I. Whatever I achieved is due to Him, not my effort. This, I think, is not what I think, this is the best way of controlling egoism. Again, I repeat, to control egoism does not mean to subjugate this ego to some other person's ego. Another example I give here, anyway, this is enough. Now, the second question is, repeat please.
Readings, he's asking you to suggest some readings about philosophy for
Reading
mind
about
control.
philosophy. Okay, fine.
For mind control.
Okay. Now, the one supreme book dealing with psychic control is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. But I would suggest you to make a comprehensive knowledge, please read Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a comprehensive science. It has told us all the faculties, how to train your work, how to train your devotion, how to have the fundamental philosophy. All this is being told by Gita. I would further suggest Upanishads, but about Upanishads, I have something to say. Upanishads generally are not understood by reading. For Upanishads, you must listen to experts propounding them. Without any ego, I propose myself. I have my discourses on all the Upanishads in Hindi, in English, both. Anyway, that is a small matter, but Upanishads give us very fundamental philosophy which we have to listen. Next is, I will say, Sri Ramakrishna's Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna's Leela Prasanga. Next, I will say Swami Vivekananda's complete works. I am not a sectarian, but these are the books which I know, so I am telling. There may be many other books. My Guruji told me that books by the Maharashtra Saint Gyaneshwar are equally fundamental. So, the fundamental books are, let me recount, Upanishads, Gita, Shankaracharya's books, Gyaneshwar's book, Sri Ramakrishna's book. Now, generally we call Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature. I do not like this name. Any Swami writing anything, he expresses his mind, that's all. But books on and by Sri Ramakrishna, books on and by Swami Vivekananda, books on and by direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, they take us into very fundamental thinking. All right?
Yes,
Arpita?
Maharaj.
Oh.
Yes. Next is Swami Yogatmananda ji has conveyed his pranams. So
Okay.
this is just a comment. And then there's a question from Aditi Mitra. What to say to my mind to be in control when I know that I shouldn't be doing something, but at times we can't resist it? For
Okay.
example, eating too much.
Speaking too much. Okay.
Eating too much.
Eating.
Eating. Ha ha ha.
Oh.
She has given an example like eating too much.
Okay. I understand. You can include speaking too much also. Anyway, now, Patanjali's method is that you tell your mind the harmful effects of eating. That is one thing he says. If you train your mind always, I will give an example. You are hungry and best food is given before you. And suddenly somebody comes and tells, oh, there is poison there. You will not feel like eating. Now, you must tell your mind the bad effects of eating, especially what is called junk food. The more you eat, the more you fall ill. So your question is correct. And our sages on this matter have said, what? Jitam sarvam jite rase. Jitam sarvam jite rase. He conquers everything, he conquers his taste. Now another way I am telling. Why we are eating? Fundamental thinking. Why we are eating? Because we want to live. But in many cases, instead of eating to live, we live to eat. Why we are living to eat? Now that is destructive. Your question itself shows you will soon control it. Because I understood that eating is not helping you. So they cultivate the thought that eating is destructive after a limit. Now limits I propose. Shankaracharya has proposed the limit. Half the stomach you fill with food, quarter with water. Quarter you leave free for the air to come and go. That is what he proposes. So suppose I eat 8 rasgullas. I should eat 4 only and tell my mind fill it with water. Another way is drink water. What I practice, I will tell you. Drink all the fluids which are there, whether it is buttermilk, whether it is juice, whether it is rasam, whether it is jhol, and then start eating food. Anyway, one more practical way I suggest. Bengalis, for example, after finishing all the food, they eat sweets. That is very, very wrong, please. The modern science tells us eat sweets first, eat fruits afterwards, and then eat regular food. So that when your stomach is already filled with good things, it will not eat other things. But after filling stomach, because of the taste, you go on eating sweets, that is harmful. Enough? Okay.
Yes. Now there is question from Ayan Banerjee. What
Yes.
should be the way of mind control for little kids or students suffering from ADHD? ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
I understood. In the Patanjali Yoga class also this question was raised. That is because of the wrong culture we are spreading. I do not like to call it culture, I like to call it anti-culture. From the childhood, we are exposing them to continuous externalism. Video games. I used to tell my friends, why games? You explore the different things which computer can do to you. Computer you explore. I learned computer only by exploring what this Word can do, what this Excel can do, what this can do. You explore. Is this not a game? Why play that video games? Horror stories, video games. So, I will tell another fact now. There also in children you must cultivate. I will give examples. great Swami Yatishwaranji has this method. Some small child has come to him, along with elders. He gives a toffee in his hand. Automatically he wants to eat. He stops it. He shows him another child and tells him, give to him, give to him, give to him. Finally, this child goes and gives to him. When he comes back, he puts another toffee and says, now you eat. So unselfishness has to be ingrained. The parents, I will tell something more. We lost everything during the struggle of freedom. The only aim before our mind was freedom. And after freedom, we lost the aim of life. I blame that generation to have spread this anti-culture. Those who had the traditional values, for example, we were forced to go outside the house during afternoon. Don't remain here. Once I was studying and somehow the light was fading and I was stuck up in mathematics. My father shouted, are all the grounds empty today? But the unwritten rule was that at sunset you must come back. Sit, wash your hands and feet, and say something about God, whatever you like. So the elders are responsible for not training the children in that way. Now these boys have lost attention. And the modern gadgets, the moment this calculator came, boys forgot to calculate. The moment this computer came, they lost their memory. So this loss of attention has to be seriously trained by the parents, the guardians, the teachers, and the social media. Okay, next. Enough, Arpita?
No, Maharaj, there are 6 more questions. We won't take any more questions after this. So I'm reading out. Should I read out all the questions or 3 questions? Should I read out 3 questions?
Yes, please.
Because there are 6 questions in all. So I'll read in 3 and 3. Okay. There is a question from Shantu Ghosh. How to practice full dependence on Thakur?
Yes.
Okay. Then number 2, there's a question from Govindo Goswami. During meditation, some important points comes in mind which also require to think for daily work. Otherwise, I may forget the points. What should I do then?
Okay.
Third question, Alka Yadav. What are the methodology or practices that we should follow to control our mind or thoughts?
Okay. Now,
after you have answered these, I'll read the 3 remaining questions.
Now, what I suggest is you forward these questions to me on WhatsApp or email, and I will write the answers and send to you. Okay?
Oh, okay. Then let me read out the 3 other questions.
Yes,
Maharaj?
yes.
Should I
Yes.
read? Dr. Ashish Tarafdar, is there any role of intellect to control our mind? Then Monisha,
intellect.
Is there any role of intellect? Yes.
I told you, Buddhi is a part of the mind, intellect is a part of the mind. If intellect can be made to observe the mind, and philosophically, anyway, I will write answers. Okay.
Then question by Monisha, how to attain the peace of mind in adverse circumstances in life? How to reach unselfishness when people around may or may not support you? Then last question from Pradeep Gautam. I have read that in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Chitta is the combined function of the 3 cognitive aspects of the internal organs, Manas, Buddhi and Ahankar. So what is the relation of Chitta? Okay.
So please write down these questions to me on email, and I will write the replies and send to you. Then you forward to these people if you have their email addresses. Ask these people to give their email addresses. Okay?
Yes, yes.
I can reply directly to their emails also or through you. Ask these people who ask questions unanswered, ask them to give their email addresses to you. Okay?
Yes. So we are closing the talk today. I'll hand over the mic to Namrata.
Okay.
Hello everyone. Namaste. Pranam Maharaj ji. Before vote of thanks, I would like to make an important announcement. Our next public program is on 19th September, 4 p.m. We will be discussing the new book, The Science of Happiness, authored by Pravrajika Divyanand Prana.
Ah,
So now I will start my vote of thanks. On behalf of entire VSC JNU team, I extend my gratitude to our speaker, Swami Pitambarananda, for enlightening us on such an important topic. Swamiji, we are deeply thankful for taking out the time for this talk. I'm thankful to all the members of VSC JNU, Ms. Alka, Amrita, Arun, Anandita Didi, Dr. Priya, Srilekha Di, Tanusri Didi, Rishi, Silpa, Prachi, for their constant support and suggestions at every step. I extend my special thanks to Dr. Arpita Mitra for coordinating with the speaker and also for her constant guidance. Special thanks to Swagata Didi and Ridesh who took out their time in preparing flyers and took hold of the technical parts of the VSC. Their constant hard work has turned this day into a success. I would like to thank Professor Anirban Chakrabarti, who not only served as foundation for the entire event, but also took hold of the technical team. Sir, your calm approach, incessant guidance, and yet silent work is a great turner in turning this event to a success. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining the event and making it a success. Now,
before you before you conclude, Arpita, I will like to that you collect all these things on chat and send it to me separately.
Yes, Maharaj, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
now last over to Prachi for making the closing chanting.
you. Okay.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः May all be prosperous and happy. May all be free from illness. May all see what is spiritually uplifting. May no one suffer. Oh, peace, peace, peace. Thank you.